Hey everybody, it's Brendon Burchard, founder of Total Product Blueprint. Welcome back. In this video, I'm going to talk about the book creation process, right? We're in the first module where we've been talking about ebooks and now into books. And boy, I'll tell you, if anything, this video on books and book marketing are worth its weight in gold and your entire tuition to Total Product Blueprint. Why? Because for the first time ever on film, I'm going to reveal how did I do my #1 New York Times bestseller marketing campaign. What is it that led to the phenomenon? And how can you create something similar for yourself in terms of your book marketing? And I'll tell you this, what I love about this industry more than anything else is books. So I'm very, very, very passionate about this video and the following video. And I would really encourage you, as I share at Experts Academy, my other program, I'm always saying, look, if you really want to position yourself as an expert and get your message out there in a bigger way, you got to write a book. There's nothing more powerful than someone holding your book in their hands or reading it on their iPad or whatever else they have and looking at it and hearing your words. And a book allows you enough time to explain what you're trying to say, to motivate someone to change, to motivate somebody to improve. There's nothing more important in the world in education than books, in my personal opinion. So I'm passionate about them, and I'm going to tell you that you should write one. Why not? I think everybody in the world at some point should write a book, and they should all write a self-help book. Everybody should write a personal development book, at least if anything, for their kids, for their future generations, because think about it, why not write a book about what you believe, what you believe it takes to live a good life? Right? Because that now becomes a manuscript, a book that you can hand on to future generations so they can know what you thought made a good person, what you thought makes a good life. And of course, by you writing that, now you're focused on your own principles of being a good person and living a good life. I'll tell you, I've never lived a better life in my entire life than I did right after I wrote Life's Golden Ticket. Because now I had to start living those principles even more because people were watching me for them all the time. It's great. So I would encourage you to write a book at some point. In this video, what I want to do is cover, well, if you're going to write a book, if you're going to create a book, how would you write a book? 86% of the American public says they would love to write a book someday, but they never do. Less than 1% ever writes a book. Why? Why would 86% of people say they want something, but only 1% out of the 86% ever does? Why? I'll share this with you. They never block the time. They never get committed for it. They say, well, I'll do that someday. They never do. Or they say, well, I'll do that someday, but I'm not sure how, so they don't. Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what to write in a non-fiction expert positioning book, meaning a how-to and advice book. So if you're ever going to write a how-to and advice or self-help book or a business book, and you're going to use it to position you as an expert and grow your brand and business, this is an example outline of what you could actually write. And I'm literally going to tell you, just like all of Total Product Blueprint, it's all about how to create something and how to market it. In this video, I'm going to teach you, here's how to create a book. And I want you to watch this video, even if you're thinking, well, I'm not going to write my book for a couple months or a couple years, because you're going to learn more about the communication process. I think the most invaluable thing about Total Product Blueprint is you're learning from a guy who's very focused on communication strategy, and you're learning, just by going through this, I really believe you'll be in the top 1% of communicators in the world. Because creating content, marketing your brand, your business, is all about communication, and it's going to teach you how to do it at a heightened level just by going through these modules, even if you don't decide to create these right away. Because again, with Total Product Blueprint, there's 12 different products and programs. You may decide, well, I'm going to do one now, or I'll do another one in a couple months, or I'll do the other one next year. Totally okay. It's on your time frame. But still go through the modules, still learn about the creation process, still learn about the different ways to market, because just by seeing all the available alternatives to you, all the effective strategies, you're going to advance yourself in terms of your communication further beyond than you ever imagined. And I hope that already in this Total Product Blueprint series you're thinking, man, I'm learning a lot here about marketing. I'm learning a lot. Even if at some point you're like, this is a little overwhelming. There's a lot of different products and programs, lots of different things to learn. Remember, you've got these videos here for you for life. You can come back anytime and go, okay, now it's time to write my book. What did Brendon say to do? And do that. most of what I'm teaching will always be timeless strategies. Timeless. Some of the technology and the way things look or the way they're delivered might change, but the strategy itself and the communication messages will always be relevant in content creation and in product marketing. So I think you're going to be very excited to know that despite the fact that you might go, okay, there's a lot here, you can always come back and follow it step by step. I already know with our module on ebooks, and I'm really excited about the feedback we got on that, lots of people are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea you were going to go into that level of telling me what to say, and you're going to go and show that level of what to do online. Now, of course, I open up myself for danger there, don't I? Because I know some people will see, there's just some people in the world, usually the people who fail at almost everything in their lives, who say, well, there's some technology, always doing technology, I'm not a technology person, I'm out. And they complain or they say, I can't do that. But my whole life, I've really studied successful people, and successful people, high performers, are the people who go, okay, I get the general idea, and they just go and they try. And they don't get scared by technology, because today technology is point and click, as you've seen through in the instructional videos offered by our friends at Kajabi and Optimized Press. Boy, they really showed you how to set up that ebook and how to set up the whole campaign. And anybody can do this if you just take the time. Look, you committed to Total Product Blueprint, and you committed to your continuing education for a reason. And that's to get your message out in the world. Stay committed to that. Stay committed to the idea that, you know what, you can achieve more at this if you just do and try and learn from the best. And I've had the perspective of learning from everybody in the industry, and I know for sure, their story began just like yours. They didn't know what to do either. I didn't know what to do online or in books or in marketing at all when I began. But I modeled people. I saw what they were doing, and I just tried. Even if I couldn't do all of what they were doing, even if I couldn't sound like them or work like them or do like them, I tried, and I got better and better and better. And you, just by trying, just by learning my communication strategies, just learning about the bigger pictures of marketing and content creation, you are light years ahead of where I ever was. So honor your journey. Trust again in this process. Trust again in these ideas. Trust again in yourself. I promise from there, I'll deliver. Now, of course, in this one, I'm asking a lot. I'm saying, look, you should write a book someday. And I believe that books are incredibly powerful, and I'm passionate about them. I've written 3 books that are released. I've got Student Leadership Guide was my first effort. Life's Golden Ticket was my second. And my third effort was The Millionaire Messenger, which hit the New York Times. Life's Golden Ticket was a bestseller. Student Leadership Guide is a bestseller around the world in the college student space. And all of those books have taught me a lot about what does it take to not only communicate a message that people will listen to in a book, but continually position myself and my brand in the ways that I wanted to grow my expert empire. So I'm going to teach you how to write a book in a specific way. I know it will take a lot of time. And I know you're already wondering, oh, should I write or not? I don't know if I'll get a publisher or I'll have to self-publish. I'll talk about self-publishing and publishing when we talk about marketing, right? But my real focus in Total Product Blueprint isn't really about whether you should self-publish or publish. It's about how do you market a book, period. But in this video, I want to teach you how would you create a book. If you got to sit down and write a book, I've always found that authors kind of go, I want to be an author, I'm going to write a book, but I don't know what to write. And they kind of need a worksheet or an outline to follow. And once I give them the outline, they can put their own words, their own experience, their own messages in there. So let me give you a couple of ideas and a caveat. The couple of ideas is this outline, even if you decide not to follow it to a T, will be really great to work through in writing anyway, because most of these messages will appear somewhere in your book if you write a good nonfiction how-to and advice book. The caveat is, look, you don't have to follow this exactly, right? Your book might come out in a completely different order, but if you're completely at a loss for what to write in terms of a book, this is a good outline to follow and go with. Now, some people say, well, if everyone wrote a book like that, all books would be the same. Well, that's like saying everybody has the same, Facebook profile, right? The outline for Facebook, the template for Facebook is the same for all of us. What makes it different for each of us, what makes it magical for each of us, is the content in which we put in that template or outline. This is just a template or an outline, just like Facebook is a template. What makes Facebook magical is the content that you put in it. What will make this magical is the content you put in it. Do you follow? Okay? So with that, let me not see any more ideas other than this. The time for you to write a book is a lot less than you think it would take. Look, you probably went to school, and at some point in school, someone gave you an assignment to write a 10-page paper. And you thought, oh my gosh, or a 20-page paper, even better. You know, they said, you got to write this 20-page paper, it's due in, a couple months from now. Well, what did you do? You waited until the day or the night before to write those 20 pages, didn't you? And how long did it take? It probably took a day or the night before to write those 20 pages. You stayed up, you drank your Mountain Dew, you got your caffeine, you got it turned in on time, everything turned out okay, didn't it? Well, guess what? If you just did that for 10 days, you'd have a 200-page nonfiction book. Just for 10 days. Now, of course, you would kill yourself if you did that, so don't do that, right? Plan it out a little more strategically than that. But look, writing a book is not, people think it has to take decades because they hear about these artists and these writers who struggle for decades to write a book. You know why they did that? One, they never got committed. They never had a big enough why or reason to make them finish that book. Two, they got distracted. They'd go down one realm to another realm all over the place, different jobs, different ideas, different books. They didn't stay focused on one task at hand. Three, they never had told someone who taught them how to write. And four, more importantly, they never did the concept of block time. Block time is my secret. If you've never studied my High Performance Academy program, High Performance Academy is all about how do you get more stuff done. We all have the same amount of hours. How do you achieve higher levels of performance and success? Well, in that program, we talk about a concept called block time and the importance of setting up segments of time, days usually, in which nothing else can happen in your life, where you just focus on that one task at hand, especially when it is an artistic creation, like a book is, where you just sit and you just work on it. You don't write a few paragraphs in your book, then go check your email. That is called stupidity. That will never let you write a book. If you really want to write a book, the way to do it is to sit down and block the time. Whether it's, okay, during this day, for these 3 hours when the kids are gone, nothing happens in those 3 hours. I don't pick up the phone, I don't look at email, I just write for 3 hours every single day. Or better yet, you block out a week or two and you say to everyone, I'm on vacation, I am completely unavailable. You don't check your messages except once a day. You don't even check email unless you have to once a day, but preferably nothing. All you're doing is blocking the time and writing. When I wrote Life's Golden Ticket, I wrote that book after trying to write the book for almost 2 years and not really knowing exactly what I wanted to do, couldn't find my voice and kind of frustrating. After trying to write for 2 years, I said, this is ridiculous. I got to go away and just sit down and write. So I went back to my childhood home in Great Falls, Montana, and I sat down. And what became a best-selling and international phenomenon, I think we're in 23 different languages around the world, over $500,000 in advances for that book. I wrote the book in 18 days. 18 days. The Millionaire Messenger, #1 New York Times bestseller. I did block time. And block time again for this book, I did nothing. And in, I think it was 16 days, wrote the book From Soup to Nuts. Now you say, how can you do that? It's because I'm doing nothing else. I get up, I write. I eat, I write. I work out, I write. I eat, I write. I sleep, I write. I walk, I write. I work out, I write. I eat, I write. That's it for 16 days. That is it. It's hard as heck, but that's how I pump these books out. So all I want you to, whether or not you can, you might like, I can't take 16 days off. If Brendan took 16 days off and wrote a book, I can't take 16 days off so I can never write a book. Look, you don't have to do it my story. You do it your own way. The concept here is block parts of time to write a book. It's that important, okay? Now let's move into, if I had to advise my highest customers, here's what happened. Several famous people in the industry decided to write a book. And they said, Brendan, I know nothing about writing a book. And I said, that's okay, writing books are fairly easy. They said, well, I don't even know what to write. I said, well, I don't know what your content is, I don't know what your topic is, but the essence of a great nonfiction book, really, we can set it up in the same way. You just have to put your magic, your words, your content, your topic into it. And so they said, well, I get it, but they needed more. So I learned by advising some very, very, very successful people and many of my brand new beginning clients that this outline helps them understand what to say. And my belief in this whole product, the Total Product Blueprint, is if I teach you what to say in creating your products and programs, and I show you how to market it online, and I show you the strategies, you're smart enough. You're going to figure out, okay, and you're a high performer enough that you say, I'll figure it out. Okay, he told me what to say. He showed me what to do to make money with it. I'll do it. And you will find a way. Even if you're not technology savvy, even if you're just starting out, you will go, okay, where there's an idea, he gave me the outline, he told me what to do, he's made millions of dollars doing it, he advises the biggest guys in the industry, just do what he says. So I'm teasing a little bit, but I also want to encourage you, just do this, okay? Try. So here's what this book creation is all about. Let's imagine we've got an introduction chapter, which is, I'm going to spend, and I'm going to tell you what to say in that introduction. I'll tell you what to say in chapter 1, what to say in chapter 2, chapter 3. I'll tell you what to say in chapters 4 through as many chapters as it takes you to write, because we're going to talk about the framework there. And then the conclusion of the book. So I'm going to give you the talking points for your book, no matter what your content is. Cool, right? As long as we're assuming this is a how-to and advice book. Fiction, I can't give you an outline. There is no outline for fiction. Just sit down and write it. That's all I can say, okay? So, but for nonfiction, and for most people coming in Total Product Blueprint, it really is all about how-to and advice. That's what I've told you, is you're going to learn how to monetize your how-to and advice. So let's do that with this book. So introduction, you're sitting down at your computer, you're staring at the blank white screen, and you're thinking, what do I talk about? I know so much about my topic. What do I talk about? And again, I'm leaving it on you to figure out your topic, right? What are your passions in life? What is it you want to teach the world? What's your message to the world? You can pick any topic you want, and you can write a book on it. Whether it's being a better parent, how to make money, finding yourself, living a better life, dieting, nutrition, health, real estate, you name the segment. Everyone's like, which topic do I pick? I have so many topics I could teach. I go, pick the one you're most passionate about and start there. Any topic is monetizable. I mean, I know a woman who makes $1 million teaching quilting. Quilting. She makes $1 million a year teaching quilting, women how to quilt. Okay? Anybody can make money in this industry. Anybody can write a book. How would you do it when you're staring at the blank screen? Here's how I would begin with you. Your introduction, the first thing you're going to talk about in a nonfiction book is you're going to define the problem. Right off the bat, your first chapter, talk about the problem, right? Talk about, what the promise of the book will be, but more importantly, jump right into the problem, saying, look, we're at a time when these things are going on. You've probably tried to master these things, or you can say, I've tried to master these things, and talk about the challenges, the problems, right? Before you reveal there's a solution, say, this is basically the reason why for the book, right? By talking about the challenge or the problem in the person's life, in contemporary society, in whatever, you get to offer as a solution. But you got to frame it with, here's the challenge. Because the challenge is the why for the book, right? It sets up the framing of the book. So we're going to start out by defining a problem, a challenge, an issue. And then we're going to move right into, well, the world is changing. Clearly, because these challenges are going on, the world is changing, and here's how. As an example, if I'm writing let's just use the metaphor of a diet book, because everyone can kind of get a diet book, they kind of understand it. If I'm going to start by saying, my defining the problem is saying, in the United States of America, 30% of Americans are obese. 80% total are overweight. We've got a spike in cancers. Here's the data. We've got all these challenges and everything. And you know what? The world is changing. The world is changing. With all these trends and fast food and quick serve restaurants and the ability to just grab any junk out of the frozen aisle of the fridge, we've been moving so fast. We've become so stressed and hyper speed in our lives that we just cook and throw anything down the gullet. But as that's happened, as the world has changed, as we've moved along, the problem is more and more people aren't paying attention to what they eat. They're just trying to fuel themselves to get through the day, but they're not even thinking of their food as fuel. So see, I'm just brainstorming with you as an example. So the world is changing. How's the world changing in your area? My way, as an example, if I wrote a book specifically on Total Product Blueprint, I'm going to define the problem is there's all these people with great messages and all this knowledge and experience in their life, right? They've got all there's all these people with knowledge and experience who are being laid off all the time, who are really smart, have a lot to contribute to the world, but they have no idea how to share their message with others and no idea how to get paid for it. That's the problem. The world is changing, though. The great advances of online marketing and technology online that anybody can use, and the invention of print-on-demand technology has allowed anyone to share their message with the world and get paid for it in quick and easy ways to set up like we've never had before. Then you're going to move on to the new model, the new reality, or the new opportunity. You know, what's this new, the world has changed, so where are we moving? What's coming? What's the new trend? What's the new way of going about doing things, right? The new way is essentially what you're talking about. The new opportunity, the new reality. And that's really going to set up the next part of your book. And by the way, the reason I'm having you started this is we're starting in the problem of the consumer. We're telling them the world is changing. Here's how it's changing. We are immediately positioning you as a person they must listen to because you have the answers. You follow? This is all about expert positioning, the reason I'm teaching you to write this book this way. So you're talking about, what's the new model? Well, the new model is online marketing, right? If I'm talking about Total Product Blueprint, if I'm writing a book on Total Product Blueprint, this is the part, where I'm going to talk about, well, this right here, this new world is where fewer and fewer of us are going to go work for corporations and trade our talent and our ideas and our knowledge for a job that's supposed to be secure. Look, the world changed. There's no security anymore. The only security is in our own efforts and our own initiative and our own attempts to serve the world. The new model is packaging our ideas into these 12 different products or programs and putting them up online so that we can generate recurring revenue, share our message, make a difference, and truly live the life that we were meant to live. So I'm going to talk about the new model is online information marketing as an example. Then you're going to talk about, in your topic, your quick story. Notice the word quick. Okay? You're going to share your quick story, to say, I began in this world trying to accomplish this. I struggled, but then I had these results. It's going to be your short, quick story of your story of struggle and success in your topic area as an expert. Okay? I don't care if your message is, and I'm just using lots of examples as we go through here because I hope it illustrates things. I don't care if your message is on how to live a better spiritual life. Your quick story would be here that, there was a time in my life when I was lost and I was trying to figure myself out and I didn't really have a connection with myself or the grand creator or the universe, and I finally realized that, I had to get back in touch with myself and the world, and I finally realized the principles I'm going to teach you in this book, and from there I've found a greater connection and vibrancy in my life than I ever had before. Right? Very simple. So you're going to share your quick story. Total Product Blueprint, I'd share my story of how I struggled to figure out all this stuff, but then I made $4.6 million my first 24 months in the expert business because I had products and programs to sell, right? I'll share that quick, short story. Short, okay? This is all in one chapter, right? So each of these can only be, a couple paragraphs in length, tops, right? So, and everyone's gonna ask, well, how long should my book be, Brendan? How long do you want it to be? As in all the things I'm teaching in Total Product Blueprint, the length is up to you. Right? There's not an optimized length. Most nonfiction books end up being around the 200-page mark. Okay? That's a good number to aim for. New York Times bestseller, The Millionaire Messenger, was 160 pages. Life's Golden Ticket in 23 languages, I think that was 206 or something like that. Okay? But it doesn't really matter. How long does it take for you to share your message? Okay? The next piece of your introduction is, it's possible. You can do this too, dear reader, right? That's what you're saying. You're saying, hey, look, the new world is changing. I've accomplished some results. So can you. It's possible. You can accomplish these things. Boom, boom, boom. And this is where you're making the big promise of what they're going to be able to do, right? If I'm writing the book Total Product Blueprint, this is where I start saying, you can monetize your message through these products and programs. As an example, you could create this. As an example, you could do this. As an example, I've done this or my students have done this. You can do this too, is the whole message. The next segment, or the next section of this first chapter is the reason to keep reading, right? Why should they keep reading? Well, one, they know they can do this, but you want to give them a reason, a big why, about how reading this book is truly going to transform their life. That this is going to change the paradigm for them, how they live and work and socialize and succeed in the world. So you really want to give them a motivational reason for continuing to read the book. And then you want to give them a very quick call to action about what the book is, the overview, saying, read this book, here's the things you're going to learn. Chapter 1, you'll learn this. Chapter 2, you'll learn this. Chapter 3, you'll learn this. Just give them a nice overview. Now, you don't have to break it down chapter by chapter. You can just share broadly what it's going to be about, but finish the chapter on a kind of a sneak peek of what's to come. So like, yeah, I want to know what that is about. Okay? And then that's going to lead them right into chapter 2 or chapter 1. That was the introduction. We're going to pull them right into chapter 1. You follow? So that's doable, right? If you just sat down with your word processor and you thought about, well, I don't know what to write, but you just wrote these as headlines for yourself and just filled in your story, your messages to the world, you would start having a book. Doable, right? Next, chapter 1. As we move on, in chapter 1, we want to talk about the current state of our topic, okay? Again, if I'm in Total Product Blueprint, I'm going to talk about the current state of all these thousands of people making literally millions of dollars online just by sharing their advice and their expertise through products and programs. I'm going to talk about how easy it is, again, with the technology. If you're doing relationship advice, you're going to talk about the current state of all these people getting divorced and how you can improve it. It's a little bit similar to defining the problem and the world is changing, but now we're getting more specific and we're getting more into our book. Okay, the second piece that you're going to talk about now in chapter 1 is you're going to go back and kind of refresh them on how things have changed. And you're going to do the specific for your topic, right? So we talked about the current state of your topic. Now we're going to talk about how things have changed in the world. Now, obviously, we talk about the world is changing over here in the introduction. But remember, this was just a big picture overview. The introduction is really short, right? When we talk about how the world is changing, that might be a couple sentences or maybe a paragraph. We get more time now in chapter 1 to go in detail specifically about our own topic and talk about how things have really changed and how exciting it is, right? We can talk about how exciting it is, how things have changed, but then we also want to let them know right afterwards the bad news, right? It's like there's good news, things have changed, it's possible, people can succeed, but most people don't in this area. You follow? So the promise is, here's the current state of where we're at with this. The good things have changed in the specific area, but there's some bad news too. Because the bad news is, again, going to set up the need for you as the expert. It's going to set up the need for them to read. See, anytime you talk about someone's problems, psychologically, they're on hook now with you to hear, well, what's the solution? So they're looking to you for the solution. And I always want to set you up as a person who has a solution, because that's what you do as an expert. You provide people's solution, on how they can get ahead in life or in their area. Okay? Next, in this chapter, you're going to talk about the new approach that is needed. You're like, clearly things are not working out okay, right? If you're talking about, again, diet, clearly things are not working out. We need an entire new approach to how we manage our health, to how we work out, to how we eat, to et cetera, right? An entirely new approach. If I'm teaching about Total Product Blueprint, I'm going to talk about how many people were buying these programs and never getting enough detail or outlines of what to say or how to market it. So they had a message, but they were failing because no one would just tell them, say this, do this online, period. That's what I knew. New approach needed for Total Product Blueprint was to reveal what to say and how to do it. We needed a new way of learning about this industry. So as an example, and again, I'm just sharing with you, I'm not trying to re-enroll you in a Total Product Blueprint, you're here. I'm doing it because you know the messaging. You've been hearing the messaging of Total Product Blueprint, so you can kind of see this fleshed out. Okay? For you, you talk about the new approach. Then you talk about who wins and who loses in this new world. This is really powerful stuff. Say, look, the people who are going to win in this new world are the people who do or what, or who are being what. So for example, if your topic is, I know I'm bouncing around topics all over the place because I know my audience has tons of topics. If your topic is leadership, and you're talking about, you're, in this chapter, one of your main points of leadership is collaboration. You're going to talk about how in this new world, the leaders who are going to succeed are those who collaborate more, who have more integrity, more authenticity, more approachable, develop more rapport, etc. So we'll talk about who wins. We'll also talk about who loses. As in leadership, you talk about the people who are going to lose are the old-style command and control people who won't leave the office, who won't engage with either their coworkers or the greater community, as an example. Okay? Who wins, who loses. In the new world of Total Product Blueprint, I would talk about who wins and loses in this new world are going to be the people who use video. those people are going to win. Whether it's direct to camera or whether it's using ScreenFlow, screencasting technology, or Camtasia as an example. The people who are going to win are going to be the people who start doing this and really focusing on building it as a long-term branded business instead of just some quick, get-rich-quick product. They're going to focus on the entire expert career. The people who are going to do this are going to be people who have customer service, who reply to their customers, who care if their customers get it, et cetera, et cetera. The people who are going to lose are the old school, hard salesman type people. The people who are going to lose are the people who do not do online marketing. The people who are going to lose are the people who just try and sell, sell, sell versus add value, value, value. Okay? Then you're going to move on to how I figured it all out. Now, this is where you're going to share more of your story at a broad level. This is where you're going to say, all right, here's how I figured this out. I was trying to do this. This is, again, your short story of struggle. Again, just more about it. More revealing than you did in your quick story in the introduction. In this chapter, you're really talking about, here's my solution search. I went on this journey to figure these things out. I interviewed these experts. I went to these seminars. I studied these tapes. I tried these new things in the marketplace. I just did this or that, right? You're just sharing how you figured it out. It's kind of what we call in Experts Academy your solution search story, right? Up here, your quick story was, here's my struggle, here's my solution, right? Or I'm sorry, here's my struggle, here's my success, right? We just jumped to from I was struggling, I had these successes, wow, you want to learn how. Here, we're going to tell you more about the how. Here's how I particularly figured this out, okay? Now we're going to move on to chapter 2. And in chapter 2, I want you to think about this. Chapter 2 is about you, right? It has a nice little ring to it. Chapter 2 is about you. This is where you're now going to share more of your story. This was short. This was short. Now we're really going to position you as an expert and do expert story positioning. If you've been through Experts Academy, that's where you're going to do that in this chapter. If you haven't been through that, here's the high level. You talk about your story of struggle from the beginning days, right? In this industry, in your topic area, you talk about your struggle. Now, some people say, well, Brennan, I've just been a successful guy all my life. I have no struggle. Then this is where you would share the story of struggle of your students or the story of struggle of other people, right? You tell, instead of just sharing your story, you talk about other people. But if you have struggled, I want you to emphasize you and your brand and your personality here, okay? Next, you're going to talk about, of course, your story of finding a solution, right? This is high level of how you figured it out. This literally is a couple paragraphs. This might be a couple pages. How did you figure this all out? What was your journey? We really want to know more about you, because before you start teaching us, remember, never forget, people do not believe the message unless they believe the messenger. So we've got to start positioning you as someone they like, and what we've done so far is we've set the context for the need of the book and what they can learn and get out of it, and that there's good stuff here. Chapter 2, we really want to focus on us, on you as the expert. And then we want to share it towards the end of this chapter all about what your successes and your student successes have been. So it's like, okay, I get this, the world is changing. I get that I need to read this book. I get there's bad news and good news. I know that this person's been through the journey. They've helped other people through the journey just like me, and now I'm going to be able to go. You follow? As you're following this and you're thinking about this, this could be the same as a great outline for a speech, as an example, right? That this could all be done in a 60-minute keynote speech. Really could. It could be a great speech. And you'll notice with everything I teach is everything is just about communication. It's about communication strategy to add as much value to our end users or our audience as we possibly can, but also hook them to the need for your products, your programs, your services, your brand as an expert. Okay? So that's what we're doing in Chapter 2. Chapter 3 now, here's the solution framework. We're going to reveal now in Chapter 3, here's the big picture of how this thing works, right? So in Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, I keep using that because so many people in our industry have read it. It's a fantastic book. It's still on the bestseller list after, since its release in 1989. And the reason that is because it's great and it has a framework. So this is where he would say, here's the solution framework. It's not about being efficient, it's about being effective. And as being effective, you've got to know these 7 habits. Successful people have habits, right? That's the solution framework. I've got these habits. There's 7 of them. And then what he would do is after that, he'd say, here's what the 7 are at a big level. So he'd introduce the framework, the 7 habits. Then he'd go into each one of them briefly, like one paragraph each tops, okay? So just a big picture overview of the solution. Everyone should have a framework, right? Experts, and I really encourage you to have one framework, okay? Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People outsold by bajillions the 8 Habits of Highly Effective People. Why? Well, the 8 Habits of Highly Effective People had like a framework in every dang chapter. It was too much, too many frameworks. Keep it simple for people, right? Every chapter can have a framework, that's cool, but if you overdo it, it's just like, what is this book about? I would rather you, for your organizing principle, for your organizing book, for your first book especially, if this is your first book, just have one solution. So the 7 habits, or the 5 practices, or the 4 things, whatever it is, just a couple of them, and have it visually demonstrated so that they can say, oh, I'm going to be able to move through this. I get it. Whether it's a pyramid, right, like Abraham Maslow's pyramid, or Stephen Covey's sort of concentric circles, whatever it is for you, have it visual, give them the overview of it. Then talk about their biggest obstacles right off the bat. Cover it. Because as soon as you cover this, they're going to be like, you always get these people, and you've got to understand this. You really have to understand it, and you can model it. You can see me doing it in all my work. I understand and I know that my students' biggest challenges aren't can they do what I'm doing. For example, with this program, or with even Experts Academy. I know that what people enrolled in is what I deliver. But still, you will always get people who say, well, I've gone through the training, I've decided it's not for me. And you go, it's not for you. You signed up for this thing. You committed to it. You knew it was for you. What you've decided is that you are not going to take action and commit to your purpose. You have decided that, oh, it's not for me. What they're really telling you is, I don't want to do it. What they're really saying is, I don't believe I can do it. Because if you're delivering what you promised, the how-to, right? That's your job. My job is to deliver the how-to to you. At the end of the day, I can't, like, you're the one who has to say, I will do it, or I will not do it, right? And so, but I'm delivering what I promised. I told you I'd teach you the how to create it, what to say, and how to market it. That's what I'm teaching you. You've got to understand in your own books, in your own writing, your own videos, your own training for the rest of your life, that as soon as you teach someone the how-to, they go, ah, well, sure, he could do that, I can't. And they bow out. They refund on you. So you've got to understand, 1, that's going to happen for you. 2, the way to overcome that is say, hey, look, here's some of your biggest obstacles. Let me cover those right away. That's why in this Total Product Blueprint program, my first video that I released, I talked about, okay, let's talk about the resources you're going to need. The technology, the tools, the video, all this stuff. I talked about those because I knew right off the bat people were going to go, I can't do this. So I just wanted to debunk it and say, look, all you need is Kajabi or Optimized Press today. They're cheap. And you're up online. Boom, you're ready to go. Oh, I don't know how to do video. That's okay. Here's how to do video. Really simple. Oh, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to do that. Oh, just get a designer from here or go to this website. And I really broke it down because I wanted to cover the big obstacles right off the bat. That's what we're doing here in Chapter 3. You're revealing your framework. Then you're saying, here's what the biggest obstacles are that people face in going through this framework. And usually the biggest obstacles are, A, they don't believe they can do it. It's a psychology thing. B, they don't have any mentors, but that's what you're going to be throughout the rest of the book. C, they don't get committed or have a big enough reason why to do it, right? They don't have a big enough reason why. What they'll also tell you is, well, I don't have enough time, meaning they don't block their time, they don't do it. So you're facing all these obstacles. You got to talk about what are the obstacles. Then you've got to tell them and teach them, well, how do you overcome those obstacles, right? What's the deal? Like the biggest obstacle is the Total Product Blueprint is, oh, well, I don't know how to do a website. How do you overcome that? Go buy a $97 plugin called Optimized Press. Set it up like they tell you. You've got a whole website for online marketing now. How easy is that? Right? Very simple to overcome. Well, I don't know. I don't have a designer, so I can't do what you do. Go to elance.com. Pay a designer $200. You're good to go. Well, I don't have fulfillment. How do you do it? Here's a fulfillment provider. That's what I was doing in that first video, remember? Well, you're doing that in your book. You're doing that in your book. You're now teaching them what to do, but you're also saying, here's the biggest obstacles, okay? Now, the book, the meat, the bulk of your book happens in chapters 4 through as long as it takes to explain each component of the framework. So all the rest of your chapters are you just breaking down the framework, right? Read the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. What what Stephen Covey did is he said, here's the 7 habits, here's what the 7 habits are. Then each chapter after that was just explaining one of the habits, right? So he had 7 more chapters, each chapter explaining one of the 7 habits. So that's what I mean by breaking down the framework, right? If you got a big idea or big directives for each of your frameworks, each chapter after that is just breaking it down. Pretty simple, right? That really makes it a book that the user can use, can understand. It makes you organize your thoughts. One of the reasons I'm having you write it like this is so you organize your thoughts better. And the other reason is because when you write a book like this, just like Stephen Covey found with the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, this framework now becomes teachable. Because it's just, here's 7 things, here's how to teach each thing. So he could teach trainers all around the world how to go out and teach the 7 habits. Brilliant, right? By creating a framework, it allows it to be taught beyond you. Because it's not just philosophy, right? It's like, I always joke about, one of my favorite books is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. But one of the bummers about that book is, by writing the book in the way in which he didn't empower millions of people who got the book to teach millions more about the concepts of the book, because there was no framework. So people loved it and they were changed and they were transformed, but they had no idea how to explain it to other people. All right, I love it. I love Eckhart's work, and I'm not criticizing him. But it's so great when you meet his friends, and I know his friends and disciples and students, and I love all that work. But you say, so if you had to teach Eckhart's stuff, how would you teach it? And they're all like, even Oprah, when she did the big webinars, right? Some of the biggest online webinars and webcasts in history with Eckhart, you could tell her, she was sitting there, she's like, okay, she didn't quite get it because there was no framework to follow. Though she did get it, and I'm not criticizing here, obviously. I'm a huge, huge fan. I want you to understand. But I think it's a disservice he did to his message by not creating a framework behind it that more people could go out and teach and train in that book, okay? I want you to make each chapter about your framework. Then in the last chapter, so if you got 5 pieces of your framework, this is going to be 5 chapters long. If you got 7, that's 7. When we get to the conclusion now, we're going to give a recap of the entire book, basically, of the entire journey. In just a couple paragraphs, literally a page or 2, we're kind of going to recap this and help them, all right, that's where I came from. You know, a lot of people still to this day, they skip and read the conclusion of books. I hate it, but they do, okay? Then we are going to talk about what's the first thing they need to do, right? The first thing they need to do. Now that you've read all this, here's what I want you to focus on, concentrate on, do, become now, as soon as you finish this book, right? I call it the first thing. All of your training should always end with the first thing. What's the first thing I should do now? Then you're going to talk about, okay, well, if they know that, you want to share towards the end this meaningful story. You want to share a story about someone doing it, accomplishing it, breaking through, experiencing life change. That's really important. And something that really touches the reader's heart. You know, share a really great, touching success story. You know, either yours or one of your students. It's really great. If you read The Millionaire Messenger, in the last chapter, you remember that was the story of Sarah finding her voice and putting her voice out there even though she was terrified of public speaking, right? A very meaningful, moving story. And then, as soon as you take them down into the depths of meaning, you pull them right back up, and you end with a motivational close and call to action for them to finally go and do it. And you leave them on the charge, I call it, on that initiative, that focus on going out and doing this. Go out, change the world. You can do this. It's your time. Let's rock. Go. That's your book. Can you do this? All you had to do, now that you know what to write, it's all about your content now. You just take your story, you plug it in. You take your ideas about the new world, you plug it in. You take your ideas about how you can help people, you plug it in. You take your ideas about a framework, you plug it in. You just plug in your stuff. All you have to do for any of this is, what's your topic? What do you want to teach? Who are you? What's your message? And you plug it in, right? You plug it in. Can you do this? My estimation, after working with tens of thousands of people around the world, is yes. If I could write these books, and I don't even consider myself a great writer, and if I could write them in that short amount of time, then you can do it too. Now, not all my books had to follow this. The reason, and not all of them did, the reason I'm teaching this specifically, just like I promised in Total Product Blueprint, I promised it wasn't just going to be Brendan's story. My job, and the reason you hired me and invested in this program, is because my job is to share you the perspective of everything I know about the industry, what everybody else is doing out there and what I've done, and synthesize it into what works for you. So I hope that serves you. I hope you enjoy your process of writing your first book. I'll see you in the next video where I teach you how do you do your marketing. We'll see you in the next video. Until then, as always, live fully, love openly, and make a difference today.